specific example that I want to use for this is um, there is a genuine sentiment of anti-whiteness um, present in society and in today. Like it was for something. It was something for a long time that I wasn't addressing or I wasn't taking too seriously, and then. But then I just started really listening more and paying attention more to the dialogue and how people react. And it's just like, no, there are some people who are conflating the history of of Europe of white supremacy with every white individual, or that every person who is white is inherently benefiting the same from the spoils of white supremacy and who agree with it. You know, um, and I find this especially like in some of like the left wing or like more just people who are really engaged with social issues and political issues that it's common whether it's a white guy or whether it's a white person wearing dreads to a white person trying to um, dance or do all kinds of shit and and then the refrain that I'll hear is that like, oh, you can't be racist against white people um, because you have to have institutional power. I was like, well, wait a minute, but not every white person has institutional power. So all you're doing is making up an excuse to justify being anti-white.
Rashad, were Dylan and Casey married, or he just hitting that?
Neither, man. They was just friends.
He's friends with a woman he's not having sex with?
Hey, some white guys do that. I don't know.
And it's really fucking frustrating. It's really pissing me off because it's a lot of people who normally or who otherwise have really good takes on issues, but they for some reason feel like just hating white people and just always just shooting down white people and shitting on them is somehow actually helping the cause when really it's just them. It's just giving an excuse to really act ugly towards people. What are your thoughts on that, folks? Nobody got nothing.
No, I actually have a lot. Like I said, I just tend to wait and let
Okay.
other people go.
What about you, Christine? What are your thoughts? Since you tend to be shorter on the subject.
That's kind of that's really interesting to bring about because like I said, where I live at, you know I'm just not speaking for everybody, but where I'm at, especially where I live at,
Hmm.
because of my background, I'm frowned upon. I'm actually one of the
Hmm.
very few Latin, I would say Hispanic, that lives in my block, so to speak. There's
Hmm.
only one Hispanic because the other Hispanics that are in my area are the gardeners. No offense.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I can understand where you're getting out about institutional and individual.
Yeah, because it's like it's one thing to, and of course, that individuals can be just as shitty as the institutions and vice versa. But the thing is
Right.
that like it's still always important to be able to separate that. Like I have no doubts of about your experience and what mentioned about getting treated and viewed a certain way, and I definitely have gotten viewed a certain way. There's plenty of white individuals or institutions that support white supremacy and shit, like the justice system and the law enforcement. Um, even if the person who's enforcing the shit isn't always white, and that's the kind of the reason why I even bring that shit up is because you don't have to be. It's this obsession of wanting to associate everything that's negative about what some white people have done and what some white people do and the institutions that favor white people, and making it and associating with every individual that you're a white person, so this is what you want, and this is your benefits, and this is what you're getting. When it's like, no, there's plenty of white people who are poor, or white people who don't fit in the dynamic, fit in the paradigm of white supremacy, and others who actively fight against it. You know what I'm saying? And have paid the ultimate price for it. And so I just feel like there's a lot of, there's a lot of, it's just very lazy thinking, saying on the
Right.
part of a lot of people who just want to easily just be like, you can't be racist against white people, and then just continue just to say really flat out, just say racist things, saying just hating on white people just to hate on them just because it's acceptable. But it's like, I don't personally find it acceptable. I find it reprehensible, but it's like, it's largely the wave right now. But before Dill, what are your thoughts, Adam?
No, I mean, just from what you guys like, totally agree. I mean, I can't
I mean,
really.
has that been something that you've perceived or heard or been like, damn, why is somebody come like, damn, like you just really want to shit on this person because they're white, not because they said something that was really egregious or like I'll give you an example. So there's a rapper named 21 Savage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Black dude, and for a long time we thought he was originally from Atlanta. Turns out he was a immigrant from the UK, but his parents brought them over when they were real young, but he wasn't a legal citizen. And so all over Twitter and social media, Black Twitter was making a bunch of jokes and memes and stuff like that, right? And then, excuse me, Demi Lovato, the singer, the pop star, she made a comment like, "Oh, these memes are so funny right now." And the response was just so negative and just basically saying like, "No, you can't make fun of this situation. This is her, you're basically saying like, oh, you're not black, you can't joke about this or that. This is black people. This is how we're dealing with it." It's like, no, this nigga could have. It's like, no, it's like none of you normally give a fuck. Most of these niggas don't really give a fuck about immigrant issues or what's happening with people who are affected by this. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and the thing is that, oh, this isn't how you're dealing with the laws. Y'all didn't know this nigga. He just created art that you like. He just created music that you bump to. You know what I'm saying? But people wanted to use that defense of, well, no, you're not black, so that means you can't speak on this thing because only black people are allowed to talk about other things concerning black people. It's like, no, just being black doesn't mean you know everything in and out about every other black person or the black experience as a whole. You know what I'm saying? Somebody can teach you something about the black experience and them not be a black person. Yeah. Or whatever your group is. Nobody has the corner marketed on, the market cornered on human experience. All of human experience doesn't exist in one person. But I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Have you observed or seen any of that? Anything that comes to mind about somebody who's just clearly using lazy thinking and not really being honest just to excuse a shitty behavior?
I mean, I remember a while back, I mean, it was like old news, but yeah, I didn't even know that Carlos Mencia he's not even Mexican and he had to change his name. And like people shit on him for that.
Yeah, it's like, dude, shit on him for stealing jokes. Shit on him for not paying comedians and not doing it right by people he worked with and stuff. But it's like the fact that he wasn't Mexican. It's like he's still Latin. I think he was like Guatemalan and or Ecuadorian and German or something like that.
Yeah.
So he's Latin or whatever, but it's just not the particular Latin that it was presented as, because let's be frank, like there's always a hierarchy at play, and somebody like as far as the Latin world goes, I think you're much more likely to see like a Mexican pop star or like a Brazilian pop star, or actually now in the last few years, a Puerto Rican pop star as far as the Latin realm is concerned. You're less likely probably to hear of like a Venezuelan or like a Guatemalan or a Honduran. And that's just what it is. But like, yeah, people will, it's like, damn, it's like of all the things that you could have shit on him for, you shit on him just because he's not Mexican. And that's just another good example for catering to a different identity. But now Dylan, I want to get to you.
It's got, I think, like little pinches of truth from each perspective as far as like as far as like this concept of whiteness goes, right? Mm-hmm. So as far as you can't be racist against white people, I disagree with that, but I get the line of thinking because I do believe that white privilege is a thing. It can be very quiet and very nuanced, but I could say, I really don't have to worry about somebody following me around when I'm walking in a store somewhere. It doesn't happen.
Right.
Like little things like that. So in that regard, I can understand the thinking behind, the thinking that there's some sort of built-in advantage. Though, on the other side, that sort of like, because the thinking that you're talking about, like all of these posts, it's rampant on Twitter. I see it all the time on Twitter. Like, shortening like whitey to YT and stuff like that, just kind of shitting on people just for being white. The repercussions for that is people start to get defensive, whether it's justified or otherwise. Like it's in some ways it is a little bit justified, but in other ways it's just people like, see, we're being oppressed, and then you get friggin' Trumpism. Like it's the pendulum swinging the other way.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
I think that's where that movement came from. Is
Well,
people
I mean,
is people? I'm not saying it's justified. I'm saying that they feel threatened. You get what I'm saying? Like
right.
it's threatening the also the idea of, without getting too off topic, like threatening of of their status quo. But it's all like mixed together.
Right, but here's the thing: is along with that, is that yeah, while there are, but the thing is, the basis of it is different. What I'm talking about is how, um, like with the Demi Lovato example,
Mm-hmm.
she's not, I don't know about, how she treats about black people otherwise, or feels and everything, but it's just like she wasn't even making a comment about the man's situation. She was making a comment about the fact that everybody was making memes and that they were funny. She was just laughing at the shit that everybody else was, even though there was only one person, even though it was only that man and his family who was having to deal with the actual consequences of this shit. And so like Trumpism and all that shit, that's a completely different thing because like
no, I mean it's not though. It's what I'm saying is all of those things combined. Like they're not separated. They're all part of like this modern day. I wish I had a different way to phrase this, but like modern day white experience. Because like
right.
I also like identify with what you're saying of like some of that stuff sucks. Like it really sucks to feel villainized for something that you don't participate in. Like I work really hard to like, help people out and stuff like that, and then like I don't know. Does that make any sense?
I do, but the thing is, I still want to make the distinction is that like victimization or feeling like a victim isn't something that just like, or all of these factors aren't something. The thing that separates like Trumpism, the Trumpist type of victimization and the victimization that I'm talking about is that the people that I'm the victims, the white victims, the white people that are being victimized or the behaviors and shit that is being victimized is not the same shit that Trumpists are complaining about. People who are like Trumpists or right wingers and shit, or alt right, they're complaining because they no longer get to go around saying the N word. They're upset because women and LGBT folks have more representation in like video games and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? They're mad because there's more immigrants and different people from around the world who are quote unquote taking our jobs. So the thing is, they take that victimization and recognizing the economic, downturns and all of these other, things, and they're attaching it to a negative end. You know what I'm saying? And they're taking it in the wrong way. The victimization I'm talking about are, like I've seen it, and it generally does happen. White people who are just minding their own business, and then some asshole, some black person who takes it upon themselves to just start mocking them and start talking shit about them and just making every joke and comment about how their whiteness and stuff. And I'm just like, this is bullshit. What the fuck is that? So that's what I'm talking about.
Well, I mean,
it's not a flat thing. Just like, oh, if you are white and you feel like a victim, then
no, and that's not what I'm getting at. Look, I'm not even trying to argue that point. That was just part of like my overall take on all of this. Is that it's part of that big picture. I think like that I think it sucks in that like it like just inherently being white is painted as something to be ashamed of, and that is where I think like that's where I think that Trumpism comes in, is people taking that the wrong way. But like there's not, like, say for example, like the idea of like having to, there's like nothing inherently special about it,
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's both. It's just like to say that intersectionality and identity politics is important, but that there are also people who are using it in a very or there are also people who are using it in a very cynical way, who are just using it to negate any criticisms of their behavior and actions, and then using it as a weapon to bludgeon other people because they really just don't want to take account of their actions or acknowledge the fact that they can be judged on something beyond their identity. So it's like it goes both ways. So it's like, yeah, there are some people who claim to be victims and they're just interpreting shit the wrong way, and then there are some people who are victims who have every right to call themselves victims, even if they belong to quote unquote the privileged group, a privileged class. Because even to break it down to moving away from the white example, as a black man, I also have to acknowledge that yeah, being black has certain penalties in society, but that also being a man has certain rewards.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's
100%.
It's multidimensional. It's like it's multidimensional. It's like Hell, I would even say that somebody as shitty as like Tucker Carlson, and for all the fucked up ways in which he is, there are still people who, when they make criticisms of him, I'm just like, y'all are pointing at the wrong fucking things. It's like there's plenty of shit to actually criticize this motherfucker on that makes him a piece of shit, a fascist, you know what I'm saying, who's just very well groomed. And yet y'all choose to focus on the shit that has that has no bearing on his actual way of thinking, because white is not because yeah, you're not born, you don't get to decide what body you're born into, but at a certain point you do get to decide how much you lean into using certain privileges or using up or taking up space in different areas of life. But before we hog this, I want to go back and see if Christine or Adam had any other points to make about, points to make about this issue.
It's just like this whole topic is just like I'm just listening. Like I don't, it's really interesting input.
Yeah. What about you, Christine?
You know, I would say this, whether we're white, tan, African American, I think we all have to play a role in, being responsible for our actions, so to speak, or point a choice of words, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going at on, like how a lot of you guys were explaining about. I'm trying to put in the words right now. I'm trying to think of something real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm kind of getting a little bit of a scat. I'm kind of getting a little bit like
It's
getting a
all
little
good.
better on that one. I'm sorry.
No, don't even worry. I mean, we edit everything anyway, or
Yeah.
So don't sweat it.
But I'll tell you this though. I had an incident. I was actually doing some work. Actually, I was walking home from the store, and I actually was walking on the side of the road because the store is not that far from me. Lo and behold, a truck goes past me, and I'm having a mask because of my allergies and everything like that. He screams out. I guess this guy must have plenty time in the world, and basically to yell illegal. And this was a white guy in a truck with a Trump sticker on it. So I've had my share.
Oh, look, I mean, the thing is that, like, once again, that's it's like that one's pretty clear cut and dry.
Yeah.
There's no mistaking in that one. I guess I would need more examples to bring up, but I don't want to get too bogged down on this topic, especially as we, it's getting over 3 hours. But
Right, but like I'm just stating, I really didn't want to bother me, but I'm thinking in my mind, you have so much time in the world to yell at that, yell that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, they're, to a certain degree, they're cowards. They only feel confident. It's this. On one hand, they need to feel like victims, and then the other side, they also want to feel like they're superior.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When they're neither. You know what I'm saying? They just don't want to come to grips with the fact that the system that they live in sees them as disposable, because they always thought the ones that were disposable were the people who didn't look or sound like them.